reason number 33 to get a Nissan. The cold. Because winter isn't done with us yet. Good thing the 2026 Nissan Rogue was built to conquer all conditions. With intelligent all-wheel drive, standard heated front seats, heated steering wheel, and heated mirrors, you can leave the worst of winter out in the cold. Lease the 2026 Nissan Rogue S starting at 0.4% for up to 36 months. Includes a 0.5% loyalty rebate for qualifying Nissan customers. Until March 2nd on approved credit. Conditions apply. Details at Nissan.
Robin Flynn filling in for Elias Makos. We are with you until 12 p.m. Breaking news, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau adding 8 Liberal MPs to his front bench, reassigning 4 current ministers in a cabinet shuffle this morning. The swearing-in ceremony is underway in Ottawa. Joining us now to break it all down for you is political insider and CJAD 800 commentator and my friend Tom Mulcair. How are you, Tom?
Oh, fine. Delightful to be with you, Robin.
Thrilled to have you. So let's first go over a couple of the biggies. So Ontario MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith is becoming Canada's next housing, infrastructure, and communities minister, taking over from Sean Fraser, who announced on Monday he would not be running again. Is this the right choice for that portfolio?
It's very interesting because Nathaniel, he likes to be called Nate Erskine-Smith, has been somebody who's constantly needled Trudeau. He's never hesitated in the years that he's been there to vote against the Liberals. He came in with Trudeau on the Trudeau wave in 2015. And I remember I sat with this guy for a couple of years. I used to always chuckle because he was constantly voting against the Liberals, or at least talking against them. And he had a very strong progressive outlook. And so he had recently announced that he had run for the leadership of the Ontario Liberals, a race won by a nose by Bonnie Crombie. And he came back to Ottawa and said, that's it, I'm packing it in. I'm not going to run in the next election. But lo and behold, the promise of a cabinet post changed all that, and now I suspect he's going to be a very big fan of Mr. Trudeau, his government, and, of course, everything they decide together.
Well, perhaps that was by design, Tom, to get him on Trudeau's side.
Exactly. And so you're going to see a lot of the names are not that well known. There's one local that I had talked about it this morning with Andrew, and it turns out that she is going to be in cabinet, Rachel Ben-Dayan, who succeeded me in Outremer riding. She's going to be in charge of official languages. Now, that's a really interesting position because in the speech that Trudeau did give to the Liberals this week, he mentioned the fact that he is a strong supporter of the English-speaking community of Quebec. Now, anybody who's followed the Liberals in Ottawa for the past couple of years will be very surprised to hear that, because we'll all recall that as they were redoing the Official Languages Act, they tucked Bill 101 references, which included, of course, Bill 96, right into there. We call that incorporation by reference, right into the Federal Official Languages Act, which means that Bill 96, for example, that takes away your right to file English papers in courts, well, that's something that's supposed to be constitutionally guaranteed. Now that's compromised by what Trudeau did. He finally got the message. I mean, when Mark Garneau left and others were saying, this is a mess that you've made, he finally did something about it. He's putting in Rachel Ben-Dayan, highly respected lawyer, very, very hardworking, super smart, and I don't think it exists to be more perfectly bilingual than Rachel Ben-Dayan. So she's a good fit for the job. And by the way, given the fact that the Jewish community of Montreal particularly, and of all of Canada, is very upset with Trudeau, but especially with Melanie Joly for her incomprehensible stands since Hamas's horrific terrorist attack against Israeli citizens on October 7th of last year. I think she might also be able to play a role there. So overall, that's exactly the type of good coup that you're still able to do when you have deep bench strength. Now, I'll add one thing quickly, Robin, is that it's going to be tricky for Trudeau, because for every single person he's brought forward, then there are going to be others who are dissatisfied. So I'll give you one name, just because can't go through the whole thing. Rob Oliphant, who's been around forever, a Toronto MP, highly respected guy. He just said, as the names who was going to cabinet came out, he said that he now supports the call for Trudeau to step down. I think the two are related. He's looking at people who are getting appointed and put into cabinet, and he's not. And I'm not saying it's sour grapes, but I think that Trudeau was wise. He had held back on this shuffle as long as he possibly could, because he knew that every time you name one person, you've got 10 people who are dissatisfied with you.
So a few of the other biggies I want to quickly get in because I want to ask you about Jagmeet Singh's letter as well.
Sure.
So public safety portfolio goes to David McGuinty. We already knew finance and intergovernmental affairs was going to be Dominic LeBlanc after Chrystia Freeland stepped down. Another Quebec MP, Elizabeth Brière, becomes the Minister of National Revenue, taking over for Marie-Claude Bibeau, who already said she's not running again. You've got Terry DeGuide, who will become minister responsible for prairies. Not super interesting, I guess, for Montrealers. Nova Scotia MP Darren Fisher will be Canada's new Minister of Veterans Affairs. Newfoundland and Labrador MP Joanne Thompson takes on the Minister of Seniors role that was previously handled by Seamus O'Regan, who left cabinet. Ontario MP and outgoing whip Ruby Sahota is going to become the minister responsible for the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario. That was Filomeno Tassi's previous role.
Exactly. She'll probably pick up a couple of other bits and pieces, and she's so loyal to Trudeau. She's also very good at handling the other members of caucus, so she'll have a key role in that regard as well.
Nice to have a former whip in cabinet.
Yep.
Now, I want to ask you about Jagmeet Singh's kind of bombshell of a letter that he dropped this morning saying that he would vote against Justin Trudeau, that he would not uphold the Liberal government. He would vote to bring down the government. Are you surprised by the timing of this letter at all?
Well, it's clever politics because you're the fourth party, and all of a sudden you've managed to write yourself into the story of the day, which is the cabinet shuffle. So it's clever political communications. But I think that the operative words are the two words you just used, kind of, because you actually have to go read the details of what's in that letter. So this is after a train wreck of a week, a shambolic week for Singh and for his House Leader, Peter Julian, who couldn't tell the same story 2 days in a row or 2 hours in a row. So at the beginning of the week, Singh was out there saying, Trudeau's got to resign, which meant nothing. So are you going to vote against him? And keeping all options on the table. Then Peter Julian goes in front of CBC, gives an interview and says, well, we should maybe towards the end of February or early March, which couldn't have been worse as an answer, because the Conservatives have been out there spinning that Jagmeet Singh is interested in his pension. Just for the record, so you'll understand the reference. Everybody who was elected in 2019 earns their pension in October of next year, the 6th-year anniversary. You need 6 years. Jagmeet Singh was elected in a by-election on February 25th. So the Conservatives are out there saying, oh, it's about his pension. Now, I've never bought into that, but Peter Julian, by a slip of the tongue or just not thinking about the inference, essentially gave credence to some part of that argument that Singh was interested in himself, which I don't think is the case, by the way. But it's really hurting him, and the way he did it hurt him. So today's letter doesn't say we're going to vote against the Liberals at the first opportunity and bring down the government. It goes on to talk about presenting a non-confidence motion by the NDP during the next session. Robin, that runs until June. So they're just, they can't sharpen their pencil and give a clear fricking message. And I think that they're going to actually have to clarify their clarification, because for whatever reason, they just can't get their communication straight this week whatsoever.
And that's not a great week to be doing this, Tom. Political insider, CJAD 800 commentator Tom Mulcair. Thanks so much for hopping on last minute to go over this with us. Really appreciate it.
Take good care, Robin. All the best.
You too. Happy holidays.
You too and your family. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.